She still sits on her side of the bed. A voicemail saved 6 months ago. Hey hun, I just got off work. Traffic's kind of bad on the interstate, but I should be home by 7. Do you want me to grab Chinese? Or that soup you like on Willow? Anyway, call me if you think of anything. Love you. That's the last thing I ever heard from her. I've listened to that message so many times I can tell where the static starts to fade behind her voice. I know the tiny hitch in her laugh when she says, soup. The police told me she probably hit the bridge embankment before she ever realized the car was skidding. They said it like mercy, but I still see the headlights folding in on themselves every time I close my eyes. The phone sits on her nightstand, screen cracked, battery long dead. I can't bring myself to delete the message. I've stopped charging it though. The light that used to blink when it was plugged in, blue, steady, patient, started to feel like something watching. I still sleep on my side of the bed. Her pillow hasn't moved. There's a faint impression where her head used to rest. I straighten it every morning so it doesn't disappear. The closet still smells like her shampoo. Every few weeks, I open it and stand there until the scent fades, then close the door before it can all drift away. Most nights, I talk to the mirror across from the bed. I don't remember why I set it there. Maybe I liked seeing the window reflected behind us, the illusion of space. Lately, I keep it because it feels like the only thing listening. Sometimes I can almost imagine she's sitting beside me, just out of view, on her side, facing the wall. It's easier to speak when I can pretend she's hearing me. Work hasn't changed. I manage a small, 2-screen movie theater downtown. The owner barely shows up anymore, so I run the place by routine. I sit in the projection booth, watch the same reels loop over and over. There's a comfort in it, stories that end the same way every time. People who stay alive as long as the light keeps moving through them. My sister drops by once a week. She brings groceries, talks about the neighbors, asks if I've thought about selling the house. I tell her I'm fine. I think she knows I'm lying, but she still smiles and straightens the picture frame before she leaves. The last time she came, she touched the bedspread and said softly, "It still smells like her." Then she looked at me, waiting for an answer I didn't have. The nights are the hardest. I can hear the pipes breathing under the floorboards, the wind moving through the siding. I keep the lights low. Brightness feels wrong now. I sit in bed, look at the mirror, and talk until my voice runs out. It's not prayer, more like rehearsal. Last week, something changed. I was halfway through telling her about the new kid working concessions, a teenager who doesn't understand how to tear tickets straight, and I saw a shift in the mirror. Not movement exactly, but a thickening of the shadow near her side of the bed. It was late, and the lamp was dim, so I thought my eyes were just playing tricks. But when I leaned forward, the shadow leaned too. Just a fraction of a second behind. I didn't sleep that night. The next evening, I left the lamp on and sat there again, watching. Around 2 a.m., the air turned colder. I could see my breath. The shape was there, faint, like someone sitting perfectly still with their back to me. I spoke her name. The shadow trembled once, then settled. I know how it sounds. Grief makes ghosts of anything that will hold still long enough. But I swear I saw the curve of her shoulder, the dip in the mattress reflected in the glass. I told myself it was memory, habit, something in my brain filling the void. That should have been enough. I didn't touch the mirror for a few days after the first night. I tried to treat it like a hallucination, like something my brain invented because it needed a body to talk to. I worked longer shifts at the theater, sat in the booth with the projectors running, the soundtracks washing over me. The repetition used to soothe me. Real changes, countdowns, the hum of the bulb. But now, the gaps between the films felt like falling through open space. Customers stopped coming in during the week. I'd turn the volume low and let the light from the screen flicker over the seats, pretending she was sitting somewhere in the dark, watching with me. One night, during a late showing, I swore I saw a head turn in the reflection of the glass between the booth and the auditorium. Familiar hair, familiar slope of the shoulders. But when I looked straight out, the row was empty. My sister, Helen, called that weekend. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail saying she was worried that people at work had told her I'd been leaving early, forgetting schedules. She asked if I was seeing someone, the way people mean a professional. The question made me laugh. The sound that came out of me didn't sound like a laugh. That night, I went back to the mirror. The air in the room felt heavy, the kind of pressure that builds before rain. I sat on the edge of the bed and spoke softly, like I was afraid of waking someone. "I've been trying," I said. "I really am, but everything feels quieter without you." In the reflection, the shadow pulsed once, the way light shifts behind a moving curtain. Over the next week, I started timing my evenings around it. I'd come home from the theater, shower, sit on my side of the bed. I'd talk about customers, about movies, about nothing at all. It didn't matter what I said. What mattered was that I filled the silence. The reflection was always the same, her shape facing the far wall, unmoving. Still, I knew it when I was listening. The air changed, and the ache in my chest loosened, just for a moment. Helen came over unannounced one night. I hadn't cleaned. She stood in the doorway, looking at the drawn curtains, the half-eaten takeout on the counter. "You're scaring me," she said. I told her I was fine, just tired from work. "You need sunlight," she said. "You need to see people." I almost said, "I see her every night," but I stopped myself. Instead, I promised to visit next week. We both knew I wouldn't. After she left, I found the mirror fogged, as if someone had breathed against it. The temperature was normal, no steam, no open windows. I wiped the glass, and for the briefest instant felt warmth under my palm, like skin. The following days blurred. At work, I sat through films I couldn't remember loading. People spoke to me, and I nodded without hearing. My boss called once to ask about payroll, and I realized I hadn't filed it in 2 weeks. The mirror waited for me each night like a confession booth. By the end of that month, the outline in the reflection was clearer. I could see the fabric of her nightgown, the way her hair fell over one shoulder. She still faced away, head bowed slightly as though listening. I started whispering apologies, things I'd said in anger, promises I'd broken. Each time I spoke, I swore I heard the faintest sigh in return. Then, one evening, she moved. Only a little. The mirror caught the tilt of her head, a subtle shift as though she were about to turn. I froze, breath held, waiting. But she stayed like that, half-turned, silent. I sat awake until dawn, eyes burning, afraid to blink. When Helen visited again, I didn't answer the door. She knocked and called my name until her voice cracked, then left a note. I watched her drive away from the window and felt nothing except the weight of needing to get back upstairs to check if the reflection was still there. It was. That night, I dragged the lamp closer to the mirror. The light should have broken the illusion, revealed nothing more than glass and my own hollowed face. Instead, it showed more detail. The pale line of her neck, the edge of her hand resting on her lap. My throat closed. I whispered her name, and I swear the corners of the reflection trembled, as though the whole surface were exhaling. I didn't go to work the next day. I sat on the bed until sunrise, talking, waiting. The next few weeks lost their edges. I'd wake up in the morning with the lamp still burning, clothes still on, the taste of dust thick in my mouth. Sometimes I would remember talking for hours, sometimes not a word. The mirror always held her, motionless, as though time on that side moved slower. Work began to slide away from me. The popcorn machine broke and I never fixed it. A shipment of soda syrup sat in the stockroom until it went bad. I'd open the theater doors, start a movie, and drift upstairs to the booth where the projectors hummed like something breathing. The light washed over the glass, the same endless flicker. Watching it felt safer than stepping outside. One afternoon, the assistant manager, Caleb, found me sitting in the back row long after the film had ended. He said my name twice before I heard him. "You okay?" I told him I was fine, just tired. He frowned and pointed at the screen. My own reflection stared back from the black surface, the faint outline behind it, as if another figure sat 2 seats over, just out of the projector's range. I blinked and it was gone. That night, I came home to find the bedroom colder than before. The mirror's surface looked wet, like condensation forming from inside. I spoke her name. The air in my throat felt heavy. The outline in the glass was clearer than ever. I could see the folds of her nightgown, the exact tilt of her head. "You don't have to hide," I whispered. "You can look at me." The reflection didn't move, but I felt pressure in my ears, faint and constant, like the air itself had thickened. By morning, the ringing hadn't faded. At work, every sound seemed muffled under it. The chatter of customers, the hum of the projector. I turned the volume up on the films until the dialogue warped into static. Helen called again. "Please," she said. "Mom's asking about you. I can come by this weekend." "Don't," I said too quickly. She was quiet a long time. "You're obsessing over her again, aren't you?" The line crackled. I almost asked what she meant, but she hung up before I could. That night I sat before the mirror longer than ever. The shape on the bed seemed closer, almost brushing the edge of my pillow. When I blinked, I thought I saw her fingers flex. The sound in my ears deepened to a low thrumming pulse. I pressed my palms against my head, whispered that I missed her, that I'd do anything for another day, another look. The reflection shimmered once, like heat over pavement. Then everything stilled. I could swear I smelled her perfume again, faint but unmistakable. I didn't go to work for 3 days. Caleb left messages asking if I was sick. Helen knocked on the door and shouted my name. I stayed upstairs, lights off, curtains drawn. I ate cereal straight from the box and watched the mirror instead of movies. By the 4th night, the reflection began to blur at the edges. I leaned close enough that my breath fogged the glass. Beneath the fog, I saw her hand move. A slow, uncertain motion, palm opening as if reaching toward me. I raised my own. When my fingertips met the surface, a sharp pressure filled my ears. A whistle that climbed until the world narrowed to pain. I jerked back. The mirror trembled on its stand, but didn't fall. My reflection looked pale and bloodless. A thin trickle ran from my left ear down my neck. I told myself I must have burst a vessel. I cleaned the blood with shaking hands, afraid to look back at the glass. When I finally did, the shape had returned to its stillness, her head bowed, hair spilling over her shoulder, waiting. I whispered, "I'm sorry," and the ringing softened to a hum, almost musical. Days bled together. The theater stopped calling. Helen left a note at the door I never opened. I lived by the mirror's clock now, the slow shift of the light across her unmoving figure. My own reflection had grown unfamiliar, pale and stretched, the eyes ringed in gray. Sometimes, if I looked long enough, I'd see her head tilt slightly, like she was listening. I began speaking to her in whispers, whole conversations whispered through the dark. I told her what the mornings smelled like, how I hadn't mowed the lawn, how her clothes still hung in the closet, untouched. I told her that I knew she was real, that death couldn't have stolen everything. Each time, the air thickened, pressing against my ears until it felt like the house itself was leaning closer to listen. One night, I dreamed of her voicemail again, the one she left while she was driving home that last day. I could hear the sound of the turn signal, the faint hum of the radio, and her voice saying she'd be home soon. But this time, as the words faded, the ringing began, louder than before, filling the space where her voice should have been. I awoke with blood on my pillow, and my hearing dulled to a steady, humming silence. When I looked toward the mirror, she was standing now, not seated, not bowed. Standing, her back still to me, facing the far corner of the room. The shape of her shoulders was wrong, too narrow, too sharp, but the nightgown hung just the same. I felt something inside me break open, a terrible mix of joy and fear. I whispered her name. My voice sounded like it came from underwater. She didn't move. I took a step closer, then another. My reflection followed, faint and trembling, eyes wide. The air trembled around me, a low vibration in my skull. "Please," I said, "please just turn around." Her head twitched, slowly, mechanically. The surface of the glass rippled like water struck by wind. My vision blurred. I reached for the frame to steady myself, and the moment my fingers touched it, the sound hit me. An impossible, screaming frequency that pierced straight through the world. My knees gave out. Blood poured hot and thin from both ears. The mirror flashed white. For 30 minutes, though it could have been longer, I saw nothing. Just light. My eyes burned as if they were full of glass. I remember crawling backward, clutching at the carpet, trying to breathe. The hum filled everything, and beneath it, her voice, soft, rhythmic, whispering my name the way she used to when I woke from bad dreams. I wanted to answer. God help me, I wanted to. But every time I opened my mouth, the light grew brighter, and the whisper turned into something else. When sight returned, the mirror was empty. My reflection stared back, pale and hollow. The other side of the bed was made, untouched. The house was silent, except for the faint drip of blood from my chin. I haven't gone to work since. I haven't left this room. The mirror sits across from me, dark now, and I can feel it pulsing in the dark like a heartbeat. Sometimes, just before sleep, I hear the faintest breath behind the glass. Sometimes I see motion in the corner of my eye. I tell myself it's just the dark, but I know better. I think she's waiting for me to turn it around. The face, whatever it is, wasn't supposed to be seen, and it's angry that I didn't look long enough. I can hear it humming again, low and steady. It's in the walls now, in the floorboards. I've tried everything, covering the mirror, smashing it, even moving it downstairs. Every time I wake, it's back in its place, at the foot of the bed, facing me. I can't sleep without hearing her voice. It sounds so small now, so sad. I know this really isn't a place to ask for help, but I don't know where else to go. I can't call Helen. I can't leave this room. I just need someone, anyone, to tell me what to do before tonight ends, because I can feel it getting closer again. The air is heavier. The hum won't stop. And I know, God, I know, before the night is over, I'm going to turn the mirror around.